Were you, like me? Did you need a reprieve from Modern, a format trampled by Modern Horizon sets until everyone was either stomped out or joined the herd of $1,000 decks? Were you seduced by Pioneer masterpieces like Mono White Humans or Mono Blue Spirits with their $10 mana bases and single colored costs? Well, allow me to ruin all of that for you, because Mono Blue Spirits has gotten an upgrade and it's the most expensive thing of all. A wedding! That's right. With the release of the allied fastlands into Pioneer, Mono Blue Spirits has gotten a massive upgrade with the nearly free addition of white cards, Wedding Announcement chief among them. I just qualified for the Stage 3 Regional Championship in Dallas with this deck, and everything I'm seeing tells me that even as it rises up, it is still underplayed, and barring something crazy, it's what I will be taking down to Texas. So without further ado, behold, Mono Blue Azorious Spirits. I call it this because despite all the white lands, this deck has almost exactly the same game plan as the old Mono Blue list with a mere 4 white pips in the main deck, except now we have the ability when Rakdos shows up to announce our wedding and demand the gift of free wins for our new and harmonious, if lopsided, union. I'm going to take you through a league with this new version of the deck and hopefully show you the power this one little change has made. So let's get started. Starting with a pretty good hand, we will keep. We're going to start with our other one drop, hold the Wander, as the Wander is better if our first play is removed. Opponent plays Vessel of Nascency. Looks like they're probably on Greasefang. And then, okay, so that was a misclick. Obviously, we should have played CO there, but they probably do not have removal regardless. So we'll still go ahead and play our CO. The Vessel of Nascency play tells me they probably don't have removal regardless, so we're actually in a better spot with the misclick if they don't have removal. And never punished. They just have a Rafine's Informant here, so we are in great shape. Looting Parhelion away, so we are definitely against Greasefang. We'll swing first, see what we draw off Curious Obsession. Not a land, so that's not great, but we're still in really good shape here with counterspells and protection up. They'll get in for 3 with the Informant. They're going to cast Liliana of the Veil. I actually think that's fine. If they downtick, we can flash in Sailor and Sack. If they uptick, we can discard our Shacklegeist and deal with her pretty easily with our flyers. I'm much more interested in holding up counterspells for Greasefang. And they forgot to use any of her abilities at all. So that's very unfortunate for them, and it's going to make this game a bit easier to clean up. Still missing a land on the draw step, but that's the next best thing. We'll suit up our Lantern Bear with another Curious Obsession and see if we can't draw a third land. We'll put Lily to 1 so she can't make a sacrifice a creature. Lands a plenty off the Curious Obsession. We'll throw down an island and a Wander for some more protection. Hold up our Snare for any Greasefangs. Opponent untaps. They will uptick and we'll get rid of this Rattle Chains that we don't really need. Shacklegeist can be another way to stop the Parhelion, so he's a little better here. But we'll just counter the Greasefang and they'll pack it in for a pretty easy game 1. Greasefang is actually such an easy matchup that I don't think we need to change anything here. It's possible we're supposed to bring something in to grind a little better. The Wedding Announcements are a consideration, but for now, I'm just going to hit submit. We might see a little more of their build and reevaluate if we need to go to game 3. Game 2, we're on the draw, and we'll mulligan a 1-lander. Mulligan another 1-lander. And we'll keep this hand, putting back one of the COs and a Queller, which might be a bit slow. Mull to 5 isn't great, but the opponent is on 6, and we might be able to land an Obsession to undo some of that. Opponent starts with a Vessel again. We'll draw a land, play it, and pass. They pass holding up the Vessel. We'll pass holding up Counter and Rattle Chains. They crack Vessel on our end step, and woof, they completely miss, but they do put a Flagship in the graveyard, which we'll need to watch out for. And here's why I loved Winged Rebuke on the draw. There are so many good 3-drops in Pioneer that are devastating if played on curve, and here we just get to go boop. We draw another land, not great, but we do want to hit our land drops to be able to eventually Obsession with protection up. They Thought Seize. That's not wonderful, but I think we just let it resolve. They either take our creature or our counterspell, and we can likely deploy whichever they don't take to some success. A second Thoughtseize will flash out Rattlechains now. Don't know why they didn't take the chains first. I think that's a bit of a misplay from them. We'll swing and hold up our Shacklegeist. We're pretty cold to Greasefang right now. We can fight through a Liliana though. We'll flash in our Geist and sacrifice it. Untap, draw another Geist. We'll hit them because this is lethal next turn if they draw cold and upticking Lily doesn't do anything. They uptick Lily, we'll flash in the Geist. And it looks like they were cold. That's game 2 and the match. I will see you all in match 2. Match 2 here after a win against Greasefang. Decent hand here, we'll keep it despite no Curious Obsession. Hive of the Eye Tyrant means Rakdos midrange or maybe mono black, but come on, probably Rakdos midrange. Island pass, hold up our Sailor. Yup, looks like Rakdos. We'll flash in our Sailor, and he gets pushed. We'll play a land here, holding up our flash creatures. Opponent untaps, plays a land. Liliana's pretty rough here. We can't counter, but it's not the end of the world. We'll discard our Shacklegeist to the uptick, as it doesn't do very much against Rakdos. If you're tapping their creatures, you're probably already losing. Flash in a Chains to start pressuring that Liliana. Untap and find a Lord off the top is okay. We'll shock in our land, hit Lily for 2, and pass the turn. Opponent is in the tank here, probably worried about Queller after we shocked in that Hallowed Fountain. They jam a Fable anyways, absolutely no fear, but we'll snare it. And they lose their Lily to make us sack, but we'll flash in Sailor to take the bullet for Rattlechains. Untap, draw, wander. No need to do anything yet due to flash from Rattlechains, so we'll just swing for 2 and pass. Opponent yet again in the tank, worried about a Queller. They jam a Trespasser and eat our creature for some drain. End step will flash in the Wanderer and the Lord. Opponent has set a stop on my upkeep all game, and I can't tell if they're trying to fake me out. Or maybe they were trying to delay that draw. Obsession is fantastic here. We will suit up our Rattlechains because the Wanderer is protection and the Lord is our Lord. Hit, draw a Dork, and we'll pass. Opponent swings and drains. Oh, poor opponent. Rattlechains is such a good Magic card. We will swing with everyone, draw another Curious Obsession. This may be stupid in case they have a Wrath of some kind that Wanderer can't counter, but I don't think that's possible, and so we'll CO to stop it from being nighttime on their turn. And the opponent packs it in. That's it for game 1. Let's look at a sideboard. We'll take out our 2 crappiest 1-drops, our 4 crappiest 2-drops, 2 snares, and we'll bring in our wedding announcements and our slip out the backs. Our first hand is pretty good. Lots of action and a slip for protection. We will need a 3rd land for our Quellers eventually, but happy to keep this. Opponent plays a Blood Crypt tapped, which tells us they probably don't have Rending Volley, Fatal Push, or Thoughtseize right now, so we'll pass, holding up Sailor. They play a Harvester turn 2, which is one of their better starts against us. Flashing in Sailor now. Spirits can struggle against early pressure as we really lack removal. Turn 2, we'll swing for 1, play our Wanderer, and pass, holding up Slip. They Dreadbore our Wanderer, and we get to slip here, which is fantastic. They'll sack to kill our Sailor. But turn 3, we have pressure. We have Quellers. We are firmly in the driver's seat and can deploy this wedding announcement later once they've run a bit lower on the haymakers I'm assuming they have. See, the lack of good removal in the opening turns told us something like this was coming, but we'll put this Phyrexian goddess in a lamp. Ooh, slip for turn is amazing. I think that gives us the leeway to deploy this announcement. We'll hit them. Draw a card on the end step. They're digging pretty desperately with the blood token here. And we'll slip the Queller to dodge the Rending Volley. That is so good that this uncounterable thing, it doesn't matter. He's phased out. The Fable almost doesn't matter at this point, but we'll see if it can help him string something together next turn. Curious Obsession is phenomenal. We'll put it on the Wander, swing, draw a card, slip out the back is pretty good. A land off of Wedding Announcement. We are some slippery spirits today. There's something to be said for the fact that we can only slip or Queller because of these mutavaults, but I think we'll be okay. They're binning. What the heck is this thing? Cruelty of Gix. They're playing a 5 mana duress, tutor, and then reanimate. I mean, I guess it's 5 mana, so we can't quell it. But whatever they got in exchange for discarding it isn't good enough, and we'll take game 2 and match 2. Match 3 on the play. 3 lands, all colors, good curve. We'll keep this for sure. We'll hold up Sailor. Hive of the Eye Tyrant. I am getting flashbacks to last match. Pushes our Sailor. Turn 2 will pass. That might have been a mistake. We have the Lord, which lines up okay against Stomp, and if they removed, they at least wouldn't have room to play a Bloodline Harvester. We dodged the 2-drop though. Our turn will hold up color now. One of the biggest level ups in Magic is realizing even if you make a mistake, you shouldn't try to fix it. You just play the best from the new position you find yourself in. At least that's what I tell myself to cope. We'll flash in Rattlechain's end of turn here to try to get some pressure. Actually, now that it's getting abraded here, that might have been a bad move. Patience with this deck is really difficult. Land here is pretty good. Waiting is a lot more tolerable when you can make your land drops and expand your options for later. The opponent passes with a tap land. Drawing Curious isn't great as we're missing a land drop here. They play a land and pass. 5 cards in a den they didn't activate means they almost certainly have removal. And a second Curious Obsession doesn't help much. I'm getting pretty scared of their manned lands here. They play a land and a Fable. I mean, Spellclaw is just so certain to die here, so we'll hold off. But we absolutely need pressure now, so let's flash in Rattlechains. See, this push is where we would have been much better off holding the first Rattlechains from forever ago. But we'll flash out a Lord to see if we can stick something at least. Nope. Somehow Power Word Kill can't kill dragons, but already dead ghosts are on the table. Land is good for sure. We can venture this Shacklegeist out and still keep up our lamp. Opponent animates Den, which puts us on a pretty fast clock. Our poor choices earlier are coming back to haunt us, and we'll flash in here to try to tap down the Den. They kill Shacklegeist in response. We can block the token at least. Untap, and we're going to have to hope they brick for a minute here. We'll drop 2 Curious Obsessions. Swing. And draw a land and a Wanderer. Let's deploy our dorks and cross our fingers that this Queller lives to the next turn. Fable flips and they activate Den. 3 manlands is going to be hard to fight our way out of. We'll double block the Shaman because it doesn't cost mana to animate. We draw a Snare, attack, draw a land, and a Supreme Phantom doesn't help that much. Well, actually, the concede button is looking pretty attractive right now, but we're going to channel Reduke. The Lantern's Lift on the Lord is actually a pretty decent blocker. They tap both dens to animate Hive. Why? Oh, no. Yeah, I'm sorry, opponent. That is not how copying a man land works. We'll take 3 from the real Hive. On turn, we draw another Snare. 2 draws off hitting our Queller is... we'll pass. The concede button beckons as just animating 2-man lands is turbo lethal here, but we are holding 3 cards, so they could totally outplay themselves. They cast a card that does nothing, and we'll counter it to try to bait them into paying. They do pay. We'll do it again. And they concede. Our sideboard plan is the same as last match. Game 2 on the draw, we'll mulligan a 1-lander. We'll mulligan an even worse 1-lander. We can make this work. Bottoming a land in a curious obsession is to not put all our eggs in one very fatal, pushable basket. Another wonder is fine. We'll play out the first one. No push on our end step. Opponent either doesn't have removal or wants to get the harvester down. We could land another wander, but I am terrified of a fable. So we'll just hit for 1 and pass. Opponent hits for 3 and casts a graveyard trespasser. We'll counter with snare. Untap and draw a land. We'll play another wander and hit for 2. We could have landed the wedding announcement, but I'm worried about just dying to Shieldred. Opponent hits for 3 and just passes. We'll draw another wander, which is really going to put the pressure on. K command to kill 1 and pick up their threat, but we'll counter with wander. Oh fuck. I was just talking about Shieldred and miscounted their mana. Damn. A shame concession is calling me so strongly, but we will listen to the angel on our shoulder and move forward. I think at this point we sack the other wander to stop them buying back a threat. Opponent swings for 3. Sacking a blood and discarding a land is a good sign for us. I imagine they just drew this Thoughtseize, which means the rest of their hand is cold, so we'll counter to protect wedding announcement. They'll pass and we'll draw and cast wedding announcement, swing, make a token. Wedding announcement in this matchup is how I won my RCQ finals a couple of weeks ago, actually, so let's see if it can carry us home here as well. They push our token, animate both Mutavaults, and put us to 2. We draw a land, make another token on the end step. They fire up their Mutavaults, and we have to flash in to chump block. We draw 1 more land, and we're dead. No worries, we'll be on the play game 3. Sideboarding, I actually put the snares back in and trade them out for the lofties. A pretty good rule of thumb is lofty is better on the draw and snare is strongest on the play. Game 3, we have a decent hand. They play a Hive and Thoughtseize. At least we've got lots of action, and they'll take the announcement. We untap and draw more protection. We'll deploy a Lord here. It probably dies, but the upside if it lives is huge. It's pushed, but the push was coming eventually. A second Curious Obsession is pretty bad here. We'll pass and hope they're still traumatized after we loftied their 3-drop last game. Looks like they are. They just pass. We'll pass, holding up Rattle Chains for if they tap out. They do not. In some situations, I'd flash in Chains here, but if they have 2 removal spells, we kind of lose on the spot. And if we draw a land... Hey, now if we just play this untapped and pass, we have Rattle Chains and 2 slips held up. They pass, missing a land drop, and we'll go for it. They try to make a sack, but we'll slip. And they did have 2 removal spells, so we'll slip again. And now we get to untap and draw a Lord. Double Curious on our Rattle Chains and swing. Looking for protection here. And we do find a snare, which is great. They'll untap, try to remove, but we'll snare it. Oof, they do have yet another kill spell, but they're running low on resources now. Another Mutavault is actually very good. I'm most worried about a Wrath to clean up our hand at this point. We'll deploy a Lord and hit for 3 with Mutavault. They play a Harvester, and we'll flash in our Sailor on the end step. We draw another Lord, which we'll play and swing for 9 here. Opponent cracks up Blood, presumably looking for a Fatal Push or a Rending Volley. Ouch, and they find it. They block the Mutavault now that it's just a 3-3 as well. And they're confirming in chat for us that they top decked it, which makes sense because they'd have cast it a while ago otherwise. That is extremely terrible, but we will see if we can fight through Witch's Wrath. And they shock a land in here, so they have a 2-mana removal spell. And Stomp especially kind of destroys us here. Draw a land, that's no help. If I'm reading right, and that is a Stomp, I definitely want to make them decide to cast the creature or hold it for removal, so I'm just going to pass. They pass. Another land isn't good, but we'll hold it to bluff a Queller. Still no attacks. We have so many things that make that stomp worthless if we just wait a bit. Opponent passes again. You know, I'm not a big believer in the MTGO Shuffler's rigged conspiracy theory, but I don't like another land here. They pass, we draw our 5th land, and we pass again. Oh, and here it is on our end step, so we did read that correctly. On their turn, they'll untap, play the giant. No attack with the hive means they probably have some kind of removal here. We draw a wedding announcement. Okay, buddy, time to do what we put you in the sideboard for. Grind us out of this mess. They swing and we'll take it. They leave the hive on defense. We draw rattle chains, which is protection for the Mutavault now. We'll pass, make a token. They play a Mutavault and hit us down to 8. Our turn, we draw a land, which sucks, but we can make a token and flip wedding announcement. Opponent shocks to 4 and plays an extinction event. So that will leave their giant, but kill all of our tokens. Well, we'll animate Mutavault to block now that it's a 3/3. They do nothing and pass. They obviously have something to warrant the shock, but let's try to close it out here. They abrade. Spell Queller is one of our better draws, but their man lands are still really scary here. They animate both and swing. We'll flash in Queller and block the Mutavault because of the menace on the hive. They play a Harvester. We draw another Queller, and the question is, do we attack and try to fade a draw step and win next turn? I think we do go for it here. They swing for 5 and we'll flash in Queller, block. They cycle using blood, but they don't find anything, and we take the match for a 3-0 record so far. Round 4 on the play, we will mulligan a kind of mediocre hand. Oof, no land, so we'll mulligan again. Okay, we'll have to keep this putting back a land and a lofty here. Shacklegeist is going to have its work cut out for it. Opponent starts on an elf, which might mean mono green. Probably one of the few matchups I still feel favored against on a mull to 5. Opponent plays a troll here, which might seem big, but doesn't actually matter very much in this matchup usually. We'll obsession, hit for 3 and draw another obsession. Shock to hold up lofty and pass. Okay, the second troll is probably going to be a little bit fast of a clock for us to handle, so we will counter. They hit for 4 and miss their land drop. We'll draw another counter and we'll throw it on another Curious Obsession, hit them back for 4 and draw a snare and a sailor. Now we can hold up snare and throw down a sailor if we want. They cast a Lovestruck Beast and we'll counter. They play a Lair of the Hydra tapped and we'll flash in sailor. On our turn, we'll hit back for 4, drawing more lands and counters. But I think the best play is to put this Lantern Bearer in and tap their elf in their upkeep, as they've missed some mana in the past few turns. I don't really think there's a losing move though. Wolf Willow doesn't do anything. Nykthos is a good draw, but we'll just counter the payoff. They swing for 4. We'll untap and draw. That, my friends, is lethal, so we will be going to game 2. Sideboarding in this matchup is pretty simple. You bring in the portable holes for their mana and the Aether Gust for more interaction, and then you just take out Lords and a couple of Rattle Chains or Quellers, depending on what you've seen from their build. On the draw this time, we'll mulligan a 1-lander. This 6 has no threat, but lots of interaction. It's probably not advisable, but we'll try it. Opponent plays an elf. We'll put it in a hole. They play Oath of Nissa, finding a forest, and play another elf. Obsession isn't a threat, but it'll make our first threat better. We'll put this elf in a hole too and pass. Sure enough, they have a third elf, but they miss a land drop. We'll pass. They play Kiora, which will lofty to keep them off of mana while we look for a threat. This Lantern Bearer holds a Curious Obsession as well as anybody else. We'll also Aether Gust the elf here because we know it was their best play when they cast it, so it probably just goes to the bottom. And it does. They miss a land and pass. We Curious Obsession our Dork and swing, draw another land and hold up Otawara here. They Wolf Willow Haven, but we'll bounce it. We'll hit and draw, play another Spirit. They play Wolf Willow Haven again, and a Lair of the Hydra tapped. We'll swing with Mutavault 2 this time, drawing an Aether Gust. They play a Troll, which does give them more devotion, but we won't counter it because it doesn't do very much here. Swing again and draw. and they'll scoop it up on their turn. After all that Rakdos, it was nice to have a free, easy match versus mono green, and I'll see y'all in the finals where we try to lock up the 5-0. Alright, we're here in the finals playing for a 5-0 finish and all the associated glory on the draw. Might as well send me the Pro Tour if we can clean up here against this Giganta deck. We'll mulligan a pretty medium 7. If both of the lands were colored, I'd probably have kept, but we also don't have a 1-drop. And our 6 has the nuts if they don't have a well-timed removal spell here. Opponent starts on a Fabled Passage and cracks for an island, so they're probably playing some kind of Omnath pile. Their tapped Stomping Ground here means our Sailor definitely lives. We'll suit him up with a Curious Obsession and swing, pass with counter up. You almost always want to be hitting with Curious Obsession before playing a land in case you draw a fast land like Seachrome Coast or Hall of the Storm Giants. We'll counter this Fable 1000%. Hit and drawing a Queller here is awesome. The opponent untaps and scoops it up. Maybe a bit of an early concession. They never know. We might have had 6 lands in our hand, but maybe they value keeping their exact build a secret. I'm going to sideboard assuming they're a grindy Omnath deck that's going to be siding into things like Rending Volley and bringing our Slip Out the Backs and Wedding Announcements, taking out 4 of our counters, 2 Shacklegeists, and 2 Lantern Bearers. Opening hand on the draw, we'll mulligan a no-lander. This is much better. We'll keep and put a Mutavault to the bottom. Drawing Sailor, I'll actually hold back to flash him in on their end step. We'll flash it in. Because they're holding up red and we don't want to get blown out by Rending Volley, we'll just swing for 1 and pass, holding up Lofty for a Fable. They play a Sylvan Caryatid, so it's probably a Bring to Light deck. We untap and find a land for Queller. Still just swinging in for 1. Opponent chains to the rocks. We'll let it happen as I'm worried for an Omnath or a Fable follow-up if we counter this. They pass and we draw a land. We can deploy a Wanderer now and pass the turn. The opponent cycles a Triome on our end step. They cast another Chain to the Rocks. We'll let it go for the same reasons as last turn. You know, how are they chaining up my ghosts? My ghosts love chains. Half of them are chained up in their art. We'll play a Lord and pass. Here they slam the Fable and we will quell it. Even if they remove, we probably keep our Lord and get to start hitting with Curious Obsession. Oh no, poor opponent. They responded to the Queller trigger to kill it, which means their Fable just gets exiled forever. If they just waited until the Queller trigger resolved, they'd have been fine. It's not a super intuitive interaction, and it puts us very ahead here. They play another Caryatid. We untap and draw another Queller. We'll cast Curious Obsession, hit for 2, and draw. The opponent is tanking for a long time here, and eventually they hard cast Tybalt. We'll Lofty the Devil guy. Our turn and we'll swing and draw. We have so much protection up now. The opponent finds a Leyline Binding, but we'll Rattle Chains it. Untap, we'll hit and draw, and then we'll pass turn. They play a Fable, but I think it's too little too late, so we'll save the Queller for something more impactful. Flash in our Lord on their end step. And they've seen enough. We'll take the match, and that is a 5-0 with Azorious Spirits. Thank you all for watching. This is the first time I've edited anything like this together, so please hit me up with any feedback you have. I had a really fun time making this, and I really love this deck. Catch me in the Spirits Discord, where you can access unlimited content of me talking about how much I love Mausoleum Wander. And hopefully I see some of you at the Regional Championship in Dallas.